Hello, this is day 39 of reading one canto of the Divine Comedy every day. We are on Purgatorio, Canto 5, which I will read from the Longfellow translation before giving some quick comments. I had already from those shades departed, and followed in the footsteps of my guide, when from behind, pointing his finger at me, one shouted, "See, it seems as if shone not the sunshine on the left of him below, and like one living seems he to conduct him." Mine eyes, I turned at utterance of these words, and saw them watching with astonishment, but me, and the light which was broken. "Why doth thy mind so occupy itself?" the master said, "that thou thy pace dost slacken? What matters it to thee what here is whispered? Come after me, and let the people talk. Stand like a steadfast tower that never wags its top for all the blowing of the winds. For evermore the man in whom is springing thought upon thought removes from him the mark, because the force of one the other weakens." What could I say in answer but, "I come"? I said it somewhat with that color tinged which makes a man of pardon sometimes worthy. Meanwhile, along the mountain side, across came a people in advance of us a little, singing the Miserere, verse by verse. When they became aware I gave no place for passage of the sunshine through my body, they changed their song into a long, hoarse "Oh!" And two of them, in form of messengers, ran forth to meet us, and demanded of us, "Of your condition make us cognizant." And said my master, "Ye can go your way, and carry back again to those who sent you, that this one's body is of very flesh. If they stood still because they saw his shadow, as I suppose enough is answered them, him let them honor, it may profit them." Vapors enkindled saw I ne'er so swiftly at early nightfall cleave the air serene, nor at the set of sun the clouds of August, but upward they returned in briefer time, and, on arriving, with the others wheeled towards us, like troops that run without a rein. "This folk that presses unto us is great, and cometh to implore thee," said the poet. "So still go onward, and in going listen. O soul that goest to beatitude with the same members wherewith thou wast born," shouting they came, "a little stay thy steps. Look, if thou e'er hast any of us seen, so that o'er yonder thou bear news of him. Ah, why dost thou go on? Ah, why not stay? Long since we all were slain by violence, and sinners even to the latest hour. Then did a light from heaven admonish us, that both penitent and pardoning, forth from life we issued reconciled to God, who with desire to see him stirs our hearts. And I, although I gaze into your faces, no one I recognize. But if may please you, aught I have power to do, ye well-born spirits, speak ye, and I will do it, by that peace which, following the feet of such a guide, from world to world makes itself sought by me." And one began, "Each one has confidence in thy good offices without an oath, unless the eye cannot cut off the I will. Whence I, who speak alone before the others, pray thee, if ever thou dost see the land that twixt Romagna lies and that of Charles, thou be so courteous to me of thy prayers in Fano, that they pray for me devoutly, that I may purge away my grave offences. From thence was I, but the deep wounds through which issued the blood wherein I had my seat, were dealt me in bosom of the Antinori, there where I thought to be the most secure. 'Twas he of Este had it done, who held me in hatred far beyond what justice willed. But if towards the Mira I had fled when I was o'ertaken at Oriaco, I still should be o'er yonder where men breathe. I ran to the lagoon, and reeds and mire did so entangle me I fell, and saw there a lake made from my veins upon the ground." Then said another, "Ah, be that desire fulfilled that draws thee to the lofty mountain, as thou with pious pity aidest mine. I was of Montefeltro, and am Buoncante, Giovanna, nor none other cares for me. Hence among these I go with downcast front." And I to him, "What violence or what chance led thee astray so far from Campaldino, that never has thy sepulture been known?" "Oh," he replied, "at Casentino's foot a river crosses named Archiano, born above the hermitage in Apennine. There, where the name thereof becometh void, did I arrive, pierced through and through the throat, fleeing on foot and bloodying the plain. There my sight lost I, and my utterance ceased in the name of Mary. and thereat I fell, and tenantless my flesh remained. Truth will I speak, repeat it to the living. God's angel took me up, and he of hell shouted, O thou from heaven, why dost thou rob me? Thou bearest away the eternal part of him, for one poor little tear that takes him from me, but with the rest I'll deal in other fashion. Well knowest thou how in the air is gathered that humid vapour which it to water turns, soon as it rises where the cold doth grasp it. He joined that evil will, which aye seeks evil, to intellect, and moved the mist and wind by means of power, which his own nature gave. Thereafter, when the day was spent, the valley from Pratomagno to the great yoke covered with fog, and made the heaven above intent, so that the pregnant air to water changed. Down fell the rain, and to the gullies came whate'er of it earth tolerated not. And as it mingled with the mighty torrents, towards the royal river with such speed it headlong rushed, that nothing held it back. My frozen body near unto its outlet the robust Archean found, and into Arno thrust it, and loosened from my breast the cross I made of me, when agony o'ercame me. It rolled me on the banks and on the bottom, then with its booty covered and begirt me. Ah, when thou hast returned unto the world, and rested thee from thy long journeying, after the second followed the third spirit, do thou remember me, who am the Pia. Siena made me, unmade me, Maremma. He knoweth it, who had encircled first, espousing me, my finger with his gem. I'd like to begin with a quote from the Mark Musa translation that I think really expresses what Virgil's trying to say very nicely. A little bit better than the Longfellow here. Keep up with me, and let the people talk. Be like a solid tower, whose brave height remains unmoved by all the winds that blow. The man who lets his thoughts be turned aside by one thing or another will lose sight of his true goal, his mind sapped of its strength. So on the one hand, he's talking about not worrying what other people think about you, so long as you're doing what is good and right. On the other, it's also just talking about distraction in general, isn't it? The importance of keeping fixed, keeping focused on what you are supposed to be doing, on pursuing the good and not being distracted by other things that may not even be bad, but if they are distractions, then they become bad if they keep you from pursuing the good. So I thought that was a really great quote. Anyways, so the remainder of this canto is taken up by conversations between Dante and three souls that come to talk to him that are late repentant, but not just late repentant, their lives were ended in violence. The first is Jacopo del Casero, who was a mayor and magistrate who was opposed to the Marquis of Este. So he's both real historical figures. The Marquis wanted to expand his territory, and Jacopo was opposed to him. And he resisted him on a number of occasions, I believe, until he was assassinated en route from one place to another by Azzo. As he says in the chapter, he was injured, and then, had he run in one direction, he might have been saved, but he ran in a different direction and got tripped up in a swamp and bled out. And then the next one is Buoncante, whose father, Guido, we actually meet in the Inferno, per Mark Musa here. And he was actually fighting against members of Dante's Florentine political party. And it was a victory for them, so Buoncante was mortally wounded, and as he's running away, bleeding out, of course, he cries out to Mary. That's his last word. He cries out to Mary and sheds one tear of true repentance for his life of sin. And that by itself is enough for him to be saved. An angel is taking his soul up to heaven, and the demon that was about to take him, had he not done that, is complaining. He says, "Oh, are you kidding me? Are you saving him just because of that one single tear? Well, then I'm at least going to be as hateful as possible to his body." So that shows us a few different things. Number one, as I said, the demons, hell is not just Disneyland for those with bad appetites. The demons, the devil, they all hate humanity. If they can't get you one way, then they will at least inflict as much hatred on whatever part of you they can get to. And then secondly, I feel like what the demon is saying here, are you kidding me? You're being merciful to him over that one little thing. That's us a lot of times. That's human nature, to be hesitant to forgive. If somebody, lives a very sinful life or does a lot of evil things and then, takes the first step towards changing their life around, it's not that uncommon for people to be very indignant about that. And so this shows us that the mercy of God is much greater than that of any human being, and thank goodness. And also how, purgatory is, all of salvation, obviously, but purgatory as well, especially we can see here, is a place where justice and mercy come together. On the one hand, yes, he cried out for mercy, he's going to be saved. And on the other hand, yes, he did all these bad things, so there's an opportunity for his soul, the damage that those things have done to his soul, to be healed, to be purged from him, so that he can enter heaven. It's said that nothing impure can enter heaven, and most of us are not that way when we leave this life. So it's really a mercy that a place like this exists. And then, the third soul is just named La Pia, most often identified with Pia de Ptolemy, who was a woman in Italy who we don't know much about, except that she was probably murdered by her husband. But she refers to it in such a way that it almost implies that she forgives him, She says, only my husband knows how I died. When she refers to her husband, she refers to him as he who put the ring upon my finger. Refers to him by, I would imagine, their happiest moment instead of their worst. So, some Dante scholars have said there's kind of a note of forgiveness and compassion here. In the chapter, it even says that the souls are both pardoning and forgiven. So this chapter in general, to me, just shows compassion and mercy throughout it, and just how great those things can be, how much greater they are than the opposite, than hate, than unforgiveness, unrepentance. How the mercy of God is so incredible, so large, and Dante gets to see that here, if he's paying attention, that is. That's all for today, though. I'll see you tomorrow.